Hello everyone, welcome to Insider PV episode number 3, and I'm always very happy to have guests here. But let me tell you that this specific man, I had the opportunity to talk to him on Facebook before that he moved to Puerto Vallarta, and well, I met him finally after 2 years after we had our first conversation. And when he saw me, he was like, "Oh, you are Poncho Davalos." I'm like, "Yes, who you are?" And he's like, "I'm Darin." I'm like, "Oh my God." So it was very funny. We connect pretty good. So Darin, how are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my God, no, it's been so long that last time that I saw you probably was when we were at the beach.
See?
Probably, and it was like probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah. Well, you've been very busy. You've had a lot on your plate with your workouts and your brand new agency. I mean, you've been busy, so it's okay.
Well, also you've been very busy, and we're gonna talk about it in a little bit. Well, before that I continue, I want to thank you. I want to thank to our sponsor, which is Servicambio. Did you know that is this place or this company that help you to change the services under your name when you buy a property in town?
I love that.
So they help people, and they go to the electric company or to the internet company, and they help you with that, and they just collect the paperwork, so they are ready for everyone to do that.
Amazing. And it's always great to have sponsors for any production, because in reality, we know it takes sponsorship to make these things happen each and every day.
Exactly. Okay, so tell me, Darin, where are you from?
I am originally from Oklahoma.
Okay.
But I left there about the age of 15.
Okay.
My direct place moving from would be St. Louis, Missouri,
Okay.
to Puerto Vallarta. Yeah.
Awesome, sounds good. And for how long had you lived in Puerto Vallarta?
So full time, I've been here now for 2 years,
Okay.
which makes me very happy. I've made the 2-year mark. But I have been coming to Vallarta for about 15 years every year for my birthday, for vacations. I always loved this city and this bay. But yeah, full time, 2 years.
So, okay, so let's just move the clock to 15 years ago, okay? So who told you about Puerto Vallarta, or how did you discover about Vallarta?
So it's very interesting you ask. At that time, I was running my little media company in St. Louis, and I expanded to Kansas City.
Okay.
And all of my friends in St. Louis would go to like the Caribbean for vacations and stuff. So Aruba, St. Croix, Martinique, different places like that. But all my Kansas City friends kept talking about this magical place in Mexico called Puerto Vallarta. And I was like, all I know about Puerto Vallarta was from when I was a child.
Yeah.
I would watch the TV show The Love Boat.
Oh, yes, I know.
And, the cruise director, Julie, would the second big scene, they'd be waking up in Mexico, and every day or every episode, she'd be like, "Welcome to beautiful Puerto Vallarta, Mexico." That was the only thing I knew about this place.
Okay.
So some friends of mine said to me, they're like, "Hey, we're getting a group, we're going down to Vallarta, you want to go?" And I was like, "Actually, yeah, I do.
Okay.
I want to try it out." So I came down and I magically fell in love.
Yes. So what do you love the first time that you've been here? What was the thing that hit you?
So there's the thing that hit me personally that really still sticks true today is that Vallarta is so unique and so different from other coastal beachfront, property-oriented, all-inclusive oriented like cities.
Yeah.
What I love about Puerto Vallarta is, of course, we have the all-inclusives up north, but we have a real city here.
Yes.
Real people, real culture. It's not inundated with tons of corporate, influence. You still have the real street tacos, and I'm not saying that that's not everywhere, but here specifically, I tell friends all the time, they're like, "We want to visit," and they're like, "Well, what all-inclusive should we stay at?" And I'm like, "Don't."
No.
And that's not to poo-poo the all-inclusives. They're fabulous. But you miss that culture if you're on a resort the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's what I fell in love was the blend of tourism, the actual historic Latino culture that is here.
Yeah.
That's what I fell in love with.
I do believe that it's market for everything, right? It's people that they love to be on an all-inclusive,
Of course.
that they want to be served, like, like all the time, just to raise the hand. Are other people as you, as and me too, that we are more adventurous, that we want to integrate ourselves into the culture and things like that. I know that when you bought your property, you decide about Versailles. Why Versailles and not Zona Romantica?
Okay, settle in. Here's the dealio. It did take me 2 years to find my property. And that was primarily because I actually had to go through a couple of realtors. Initially, when I came down, I'd be like, here for vacation. I'd extend my vacation and I'd say things like, yeah, I'd like to look at property. I'm considering moving, or at least getting a place here for vacations and whatnot. Of course, this is pre-pandemic. And everybody kept saying to me, or all the realtors, they're like, oh, great. And they'd show me all these properties in Zona. And I was like, well, are there other areas in Vallarta? Like, and I don't mean above, north of the airport, but like, are there other areas that I could look at? And, I want to have more options than just one.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, the first 2 realtors I worked with, they're like, oh, no. There's nothing available outside of Zona, nothing at all. No posible. And I was like, that's odd.
Yeah.
So I'd keep coming back. And I started doing trips down here once a quarter. That's every 3 months, just to look at property. And every time it was a no. There's nothing outside of Zona. And then I started feeling weird about it. And I finally... It was my 3rd realtor I met with, and I literally said to this realtor, I said, if you show me one thing in Zona Romantica, I will fire you on the spot. And he's like, but, and I was like, no buts about it. I have looked at everything in Zona. And that's not to say Zona is not fabulous. Zona Romantica is the most magical district that we have here.
Yes.
And I love it. But I was a different buyer. I was a very different buyer. I wasn't looking to get a cute place that I would spend a couple weeks of the year for vacation and Airbnb it. I wasn't looking to be a seasonal 6-month person just here for the winter. I was in it to win it. I wanted to be here full time, year round. Hot summers, bring it.
Yeah.
Like, I was not questioning any of that. And for some reason, the first 2 realtors just could not get that through their head. And I thought, no. So I finally, my 3rd realtor finally found places for me outside of Zona. And one of my trips here just to look, I had ended up renting an Airbnb at, I think it's called Harbor 171.
Oh, yes, in Hotel Zone.
Las Glorias, in the Hotel Zone. I'd rented an Airbnb there for like 3 weeks while I was looking for property. And I had always... Every morning I'd get up and I'd walk to this coffee shop, and every day I walked by this one building that I thought was really lovely, and I thought, I wonder what those look like, but there was no sign of for sale or anything like that on it. So I didn't think about it at all, but I always sat at the cafe and I was like, I wonder what those look like. Those are cute. I wonder if they're cute. But then I let it pass. But it was on one of my very last trips that I was literally about to give up hope. And say, no, I have nowhere to move to, and I want to, but I still haven't found it.
Yeah.
I'm just about to give up. I've been down here for 2 years now, 4 times a year looking. One time I stayed for like 6 weeks looking. Like, I was committed.
Yeah.
And I will never forget this. It was my very last trip down that I was like, if I don't find something this trip, I give up. Maybe I'll look other places. I'll give up. And I tell you, Poncho, it was the very last property I looked at, and it was the building I would walk past every day to go have coffee. And I was like, I always wondered what they looked like. We walked in to this place, and I turned to my realtor and I was like, oh, I've been wanting to look at this building. And I've just never seen anything available in it, but this is great. Let's go look. And it's the very last one. We walk into the unit, and it was everything I wanted.
Okay.
Perfectly. Even to the price.
That was very important.
Yeah, I was like, even this price is like absolutely ideal. And I'll never forget, I'm standing in the unit on my first look, and I'm on my phone. My realtor is standing next to me, and I'm texting him. I'm like, make the offer full. Let's not mess around. Let's get this done. I love it. This is it.
Yeah.
And there's the story. Now, I love Versailles because it is a totally different vibe than Zona Romantica, which again is magical.
Yes.
I have always been one of these people that I love having access to like Zona or party scene, the fun, the tourism, the excitement, the fervor, I've always been one who loved the access to that, but I did not want to live in that every single day of my life.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose Versailles. It's a little quieter. We still have the most amazing things in Versailles. We have the most amazing restaurants. In fact, in the 2 years I have lived here, I have seen 3 restaurants now move from Centro and Zona to Versailles.
That's right.
Because number 1, they have better spaces. Number 2, they have I don't know, it's just, it's starting to pop and I'm absolutely happy.
That's awesome. Okay, so I know a little bit about your background, but I want that everyone knows about your background because I know that you are very involved to the LGBT community too.
Claro.
And tell us a little bit more about it.
So I have to start with saying I'm so fortunate and so privileged that I have spent the last 25 years of my career working in LGBT community news and entertainment. So I currently run the 3rd largest LGBT media company in the United States called Edge Media Network. We have an audience of about 10.5 million people, which is pretty big. I have a social media following through them around, I think it's like 2.5 million combined with all the different platforms. So I've been very fortunate to work in the gay sphere and to have a front seat to all the changes that have happened to the community over the last 25 years. So I mean, I've had universities ask me to teach college courses on it and all this, and I'm like, nah, I do what I like, which is like media. I love writing, I love videos, I love, creating content for my community to check out. But I am very blessed to work in that industry for the past 25 years. And it has afforded me this lifestyle. My company is actually based out of Boston, but during the pandemic, they went and decided to go remote, naturally, because we had to.
Yeah.
But then they realized, wow, this works. So why not? Why would we ever go back to an office?
Yeah.
We're all writers, journalists, business people, and we don't really need an office to do all this when we can connect online, which was what spurred me to really go proactive and on the offensive to buy my place here and move here.
So what would you tell people, the LGBT community, that they never been in Vallarta, why they should come here?
Freedom, happiness, excitement, of course, beauty. It's everywhere. And that's not just the boys. Seriously, the beach is beautiful. The town is beautiful. The food is beautiful. But in truth, I do a lot of comparisons. I get asked this in the U.S. a lot. And they're like, why Puerto Vallarta? Aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, not at all. It's not a scary city at all. In fact, truth be told, since I am from the Midwest of the Americas, I feel actually safer here than I do in the U.S., especially when we have all these mass shootings at Walmarts and schools and things like that in the U.S. So I actually feel safer here than I do in the United States. But the truth is you come down here, especially if you've never been here, well, first of all, your jaw will be on the floor the whole time, and your eyes will just be open the whole time.
Yeah.
It's also the friendliness here. I've been to major gay locations across the globe. I've been to major gay events. Not that they're bad, they're all wonderful things for our community, but I've also walked into things where I'm like going to this super fabulous gay event and I'm kind of like looked at like, who are you? What do you do? I've never felt that here. Not once. Not one judgment.
Yeah.
Not one anything other than, hey, you want a margarita?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, But it's the friendliness of mostly of the Mexican people. The friendliness and the helpfulness of the Mexican people have been so wonderful to me. But even tourists. And, sometimes I remember this. I was here for a portion of the pandemic. And I know in the U.S. we used to have all these fights and things in the streets about I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to do this. You can't force me to do that. I would see the same people down here on vacation and they would follow the rules.
Yes.
I was baffled by it. But then I had to think about them, and I thought, oh, well, actually, I get it. They're on vacation. Who's not happy on vacation?
Yes.
So I look around at my demographic of humans I am with every day.
Yes.
And I would say 75% of them are just the most happiest people, helpful people, excited to be here, passionate about being here. It's the 25% that are not, that I'm like, there's enough of us that are good to outweigh the rest.
That's awesome. I've been told that you were in Mexico City recently.
I was.
So it was your first time?
It was.
Okay, tell everyone about Mexico City from your point of view.
So this was my first trip to Mexico City. One of my best friends lives there, and here he splits his time between the two. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, why don't you come? And I was like, hey, they're having Latin America Pride, so I'll go then. And plus I can also take a couple pictures, write a cute story about it, and throw it on my website.
Yeah, that's good.
So I was like, perfect. I'll get a little work out of it and get to go see a new city. I loved Mexico City. I loved it so much. It was so beautiful, so different than here.
Yes.
And I do think every, gringo needs to experience a Latin American city.
Yeah.
As well as the beach towns. We all love the beach towns, but you need to experience this Latin American city. It is really special and beautiful, and I will tell you, I literally cried in the middle of Pride Fest.
Oh.
Because for me, I ran St. Louis Pride for 11 years solid. And to go to this Pride and be surrounded by 2.1 million of my community members, their extended families, was beautiful. I saw families come out together. They're pushing their abuela in a wheelchair, and she's done the pride stripes on her face. Yeah. She's not a lesbian, but she is there to support her grandson.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that was so beautiful to me. It wasn't corporate driven. You didn't see tons of corporate, logos everywhere. It was really about community, unity, and a celebration of a valued lifestyle that I'd actually have not experienced at a Pride Fest in the U.S. before. I've only experienced corporate sponsor, and, half-naked people, and, and that's it. And drinking. That's all that I've ever experienced for the U.S. Pride festivals.
Yeah.
Here it was so different, such a fabulous actually experience. Mm-hmm. It was so different than what I was ever used to. So I highly suggest that. The city itself, I only, it was a short trip because it was over the weekend. I'm going back. Okay. But I only stayed in Reforma. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of got to experience that little area. I am planning on going back at the end of August for a week, and I literally say this, I can't wait to just be a basic tourist. Sometimes in life you just want to be basic.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
That's fantastic. So having the experience being in Mexico City at Pride and having the experience with the Pride here in Vallarta, from your point of view, what is the difference, or is very similar? Or
very
what?
Similar. Just, of course, the amount of people. That was one of the first things I realized in Vallarta was with a parade. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Pride. My first parade here was not Pride. It was, I want to say, Carnival.
Yes.
Okay. And I was down here on a visiting trip to look at property, and they were talking about, there's going to be a parade. And I was like, I'll go check it out. I used to run parades in St. Louis. I got this. I get there, and let me tell you, I will always hold this story true. Mm-hmm. When I would run parades in St. Louis for Pride, we had to hire police, we had to put up all these stanchions, you had all these regulations, you had all these things that really separate you as a patron or an audience member to the parade people. There was a real invisible wall, but also an actual physical barrier wall. What I loved is I went to the Carnival Festival here, or the parade here, and I was just in the street with everybody else, and believe it or not, one of the trucks or floats broke down right in front of me, and Poncho, this was the most beautiful thing. It was not chaotic or crazy. Everybody on the street just got out and helped push it along.
That's awesome.
That's unity. That's community. And this wasn't even a gay thing. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That's the thing that my eyes have been peeled open to the lifestyle here of the friendliness and the community aspect here.
That's great. So here in Vallarta, how is a normal day for you?
Perfect.
What do you do normally?
I wake up in the morning, I look out my window, and the first thing I do is I go, God, it's so beautiful here. Thank you for letting me be here. It's the first thing I do.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I do work online every day. I have to run, many offices in the U.S., and they all have to report to me on different aspects. And so I do all my Zoom meetings in the morning. At least I try to book all my Zoom meetings in the morning, so that way I can then use the afternoon to do like the hard work, emailing, contracts, negotiations, things like that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of wrap up by about 3 o'clock, and then it's time for a margarita.
Always a good time for a margarita.
Always.
So tell us about your podcast, because you have a podcast too.
Yeah. It's funny. My boss has been wanting me to do it for probably at least 2 years now 3 years. And I was reticent in proceeding forward with me as the host. Now, something you don't know about my past is back in the U.S., I was kind of a notable figure in the entire United States for ushering in queer media in the U.S.
Yeah.
And that means I even did things like I've spoke in front of the Supreme Court of the United States when they were ruling on marriage equality.
Yeah.
I was one of the 10, only 10 in the United States, testifants that were asked to come and speak.
Yeah.
I was one. So I've helped usher in change laws. I've done all these things. So I had this notoriety there, which is good and bad. I actually had some issues with being quote unquote celebrity in the U.S. Like at one time there was, because of who I am and what I do, I had death threats. I had, I had FBI living in my house for like 3 months while they tried to catch the guy who was trying to threaten me. I also found in the U.S., especially in the last 5 years prior to moving here, now I don't really care, but even my own community would turn on me. And like, I'm doing everything for them.
Yeah.
But I found a lot, and I have not found this element here yet. I'm not saying it isn't here, or maybe it is, I don't know. But, 25 years working your butt off for a community, and then the second you have to say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do this one thing for you, they just turn on you completely. Yeah. And I had my own community members try to like ruin my business, tell clients that don't advertise with me, and I'm thinking, wait, United States, where's that unity and community BS you always love to talk about? Because that's a lot of BS up there.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah, so I did not want to do my podcast. I was so looking forward to moving down here, doing my little behind-the-scene job of running, gay media in the United States, and just being a local person on the street and not known. I really was looking forward to that. So for 3 years, I've put it off.
Well, but the destiny took you back to what it is.
Primarily, my boss was like, you're doing it, and you're doing it now. And I was like, okay, fine. And I knew what would happen, and it has happened, and I'm very thankful. I mean, I love what I do. I really love what I do. I love to talk with people. I love to tell their stories. But it's a little different this time, and it is. Now, every episode of mine now is getting like 150 to 200,000 views. Okay. But I know that's a part of because of my notoriety in the U.S. already. But the good thing is they can't find me.
Exactly. They don't know where you are, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So I don't walk out on my street now and hear things like faggot and things like that. And I'm thankful for it. So in hindsight, now that I've done it for about 6 months, I'm actually thankful to my boss for forcing me to do it. Because I am good at it and I love doing it.
Yeah.
I was just fearful. It's like, I don't want to be famous again. I did not like it. I enjoyed the path up, but I did not enjoy the path once I was there.
Yes.
And you actually hear that from other big celebrities, even like George Clooney. George Clooney, big major A-list movie star. But after he got to his A-list level, he's like, peace out, I'm out. I will come back into LA to do a few projects, but I am not going to live there. I'm not going to be in surrounded by... I realize that's kind of part of the path.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So how people they can find your podcast online?
Very easy. You can go to any of our social media platforms, which is Edge Media Network.
Okay.
On all the platforms. So it's all three words. I know it's a long name. I yell at my boss all the time. I'm like, let's just call it Edge, but Edge Media Network.
Okay.
And of course our website, edgemedianetwork.com.
Okay.
So we're on all the major platforms and of course our website.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you took your time to share your love about Puerto Vallarta, your love about Mexico, that you tell us your background. Thank you so much again for being here and share with all of us, actually, your point of view, your passion about Vallarta, your passion about your job. And just follow that Edge Media
Network
that you can watch and hear his podcast and his videos and the interviews and things like that. One day I hope to be very famous that he can interview me. That will be fantastic.
I'll be happy to do so.
Well, thank you so much. And in the next episode we have a fantastic guest here on Insider PV. My name is Poncho Davalos, your realtor for life, and